Ganeshaya Namaha, Om Shri Saraswataya Namaha, Om Shri Guru Dattatreya Namaha, Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha, Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So today we'll be starting a new chapter, Shri Ekanathi Bhagavad Satsang, chapter 3. Om salutations to Lord Shri Ganesha, Om salutations to Lord Shri Krishna. Om, my pranams are to you, O my Guru Raj. Saying this, I touch your feet with all the faith, which caused the sense of I disappear together with the concept of you. The hardness of these feet is wonderful. The casual body, which cannot be broken by Indra's Vajra, is broken and pulverized by the chance touch of these feet. The king Bali was touched by your feet and pushed down to the nether world, and the Lavana demon, who was very powerful and unconquerable, was crushed by these feet. These feet are very sharp. When they touched the hood of the serpent Kalia, the poison was squeezed from it and he was turned poisonless. These feet are very terrible. When the cart was touched by these feet, the ropes were snapped and the cart could not move any more. Even very strong persons are afraid of these feet. Ahalya had become a stone. By touch of these feet, she was freed. When Nurga saw these feet, he was liberated from the cycle of birth and death. The devotees meditate with love on these feet and go beyond human life. These feet have made the region of Yama a deserted place. These feet break the shell of Jiva, the limited sense of being a Jiva. The Lord Shiva held on his head the sacred water coming from these feet. He was intent upon destroying the entire world, but he was made a mendicant living in a cemetery, naked and smeared all over his body by ashes. This is the power of these feet. They deprived the Lord Shiva of his status of Shiva. Then what will be the fate of Jivas? The concept of Jiva and Shiva is removed by these feet. Knowing this power and faith, Eknath has remained in his oneness. There also these feet have done wonders. When I bowed, even my oneness was wiped out. Now, who has to praise whom? Who has to request whom? Who has to give or take? Because the life of I and you is no more. And now, the God and the devotee both are in you only. There, who can proudly say, I am? And who has the capacity to show off I-ness, and to whom? O God, you raise me to such a status and then yourself execute the writing of this book in poetry. So, O my Guru, it is all yours. My name and form, everything has become Janardana. Such is the wonder of the unity. With that wonder and affection, Sri Janardana has become the poet and the author, taking my name. This he is doing with proper accuracy and self-knowledge. Now, we will see that at the end of the second chapter, there is description of devotees who have glided over the Maya, which is very difficult to go beyond, and by devotion, they have reached the Almighty God. The king asked how the Maya of Hari is unsurpassable and said, O great sage, please listen. Now here we are beginning with the chapter 3. So this was just in continuation, and Eknath Maharaj's, his devotion unto the lotus feet of his Gurudev. He was saying the greatness of Sri Krishna Bhagwan's lotus feet and how one being devoted to the feet destroys everything and brings in that oneness. And in the end he says, there is no I and you, also there is no I am as well. Everything is in God alone. So God is. That is what he's saying. And now King Janaka has asked sage Hari to explain the unsurpassable Maya. So today we are beginning with chapter 3, verse 1 and subverse 18. The king said, we wish to know the Maya of God Vishnu, which is alluring even those who have control over it. O sages, please tell us. In the third chapter, the king is going to ask 4 questions. They are about Maya, then about how to go beyond it, Then what is Brahman and what is karma? In the third, okay, first he has asked the question of Maya, the nature of which is described in short by the king himself. The king said, the Lord Rishikeshi, to whom the Brahma, Shiva, etc. pay respects, is having his Maya, which even allures those that are yogis and control it. We want to know how it allures and what is its nature. So these are all some of the questions which all of us do have. What is Maya? How does Maya allure everybody? And how do one overcome Maya? Then Lord Brahma, the Lord Shiva and others think themselves to be the controllers of Maya. But Maya deceives them in the end. For example, at the time of the marriage of Shiva, Brahma was enamored by the beauty of Parvati and his semen fell down. Similarly, though Shiva is knowledge embodied, when he saw Mohini, the beautiful lady who was the incarnation of Vishnu, his semen was also ejaculated. Now, we are reading a beautiful scripture, and in this, it is mentioned how Maya, in the form of lust and greed, can be, alluring even to the gods also, and how even they can even get deluded by this Maya. So what about a normal human being who's not even done any penance or austerity or followed the path very sincerely? So please tell me about this unconquerable Maya, which is called Ajaya and which is apt to disturb those who are really men of wisdom. You may perhaps say, though this Maya is very powerful, it cannot disturb the devotees of God. So why should you, number one, inquire about it? The best course for me, that is, why should you, that is, I inquire about it. The best course for you, that is me, is to follow the path of devotion. He's just making a statement. With this reference in mind, the king asked this question with great respect in order to evoking the secret and sacred knowledge from the sage. Now let us see what the sage has to say. Chapter 3, verse 2. I am not satisfied enough while listening in your words to the nectar of the story of Hari, which is the medicine for the persons who are suffering from the fever of mundane world. My mind is not satisfied while enjoying the nectar of your speech. While appreciating the meaning of your words, my ears have become more hungry to hear further. Your speech is extremely sweet and wonderful. My ears are hankering for hearing further. My tongue says it is the sweetest juice, and for my eyes this beautiful speech is great inspiration. That the nose says that it is the fragrance of all the smells of the flowers, and my speech says, your word explains the highest bliss. The power of this commentary invites my arms to embrace your speech, and that is at once between two souls with great affection. Your stories are like divine medicine for the destruction of the disease of the earthly life, full of triple troubles, and by listening to this sermon, the simple ignorant people are also saved. Seeing that the king was eager to listen to the spiritual explanation and was very attentive, the sage Antariksha, the younger brother of sage Hari, started to speak very cleverly. Now, who's the sage who's going to be speaking? Antariksha. So don't forget the sage who's now going to expound the truth to the king. And who's the king? King Janaka. So let us begin. Chapter 3, verse 3. Antariksha said, O king of great arms, the original Purusha, who is the Atman of all beings, created by these all the great five elements, many beings of higher and lower categories by his own measurements, and for the purpose of proving himself alone. Antariksha said, O king, you have asked about the Maya of Lord Hari, but that question has gone waste, because to speak about Maya is beyond the capacity of all great speakers, which is the truth. Nobody can describe Maya adequately, because if you think something is Maya, she will she will create more delusions, and then you don't understand what is really Maya all about. So we'll understand slowly. I will give you an example. Suppose a king searched and found out the time and date of birth of the son of a barren woman, and calculated the sign of the zodiac, the star, the caste, and his race, etc. Is that possible? So how can a barren woman son? So what is he saying? He's saying, suppose a king searched and found out the time and the date of the birth of a son of a barren woman. This itself doesn't exist, because the barren woman can't produce. She can't give birth to a child. So how will this exist? So that itself nullifies there. Next, take another example of absurdity. Suppose in the clouds, which look like a city, somebody opens, say, roadside fountain or tap of the waters of mirage, or even somebody can twist the wicks made of air and they are kindled by the light of fireflies. Or one may break the head of one's shadow, or one may peel the skin of the sky, or one may scratch by a shell the darkness, or one may kill the fancy demon imagined by children by a weapon and make his wife's widow. To talk about Maya is as absurd as these examples. Means what? He's giving the most absurd examples. Why? Because he's giving an understanding that to talk about Maya is equivalent to this. Maya is also indescribable, just like the Lord. Because nobody can understand the power of Lord's Maya. Please understand, she is Lord's Maya. So, I mean, how can you break your own shadow's head? Can you do that? You can't. Similarly is Lord's Maya. So I'm not going to give a detailed explanation. I hope you understand. He's just giving an absurd example to tell us that it is next to impossible. Suppose the daughter-in-law of a barren woman delivered a son. Then the wife of Bhishma started feeding milk from her breast, drinking which the son became so powerful that he destroyed the house of a naked, homeless man. See, all this is sounding very absurd. You know why he's talking like that? Because to tell that Maya is something that you can't describe. To talk about Maya is as absurd as to put wind in a grinder and grind it. Can you do that? It is next to impossible. Fine. Or the sky should be torn by the horn of a horse, or the grandsons of a eunuch should come to hide themselves in the dark after sunshine. This is absolutely absurd. Similarly, Maya cannot be described. To talk about Maya is as impossible as to light the lamps by the light of Gunja, a small seed, in the marriage of Hanuman, and to raise the funds for this marriage. Or one may go to a deserted village and sell his own shadow there to somebody. Will Hanuman ever get married? No, he's a brahmachari. So similarly, how can you describe Maya? There may be some foolish people who will discuss whether the flowers of the sky are having fragrance or not. Only such people may at their own sweet will discuss about Maya. In short, when anybody starts to talk about Maya, he is non-pulsed. It is like performing the posthumous ceremonies of a child which is not born. So please don't even discuss Maya. That is what he's talking about. Maya says that it is avidya. The meaning of avidya is not existing any time. The Vedas and Shastras declare this to be true. Means what? Avidya which is ignorance. So knowledge is there, but it is covered. So what does it mean? It is avidya, which is ignorance, and that is true. Similarly, confusion is the root of this Maya. Delusion is its shining flower, and the wrong concept is the fruit, which is full of the juice of sense objects. So he is now describing Maya. So let me go step by step. What is he saying? Confusion is the root of Maya. Are you confused in life? You know, the moment when you are being taught, very simple, my Krishna Guruji will give this very beautiful example all the time. I'll give you this very simple example. You know what? Confusion. I'll tell you how the confusion comes about. Your guru gives you an instruction. You know what is the instruction? Go downstairs He's telling all the disciples over there. Can you, one of you please go downstairs? There is a clock near the stair. Can you please check the time in that clock and come and tell me? Do you know what everybody will do? Guruji, I have a watch. You know the time is this. Guruji, I think the sun is in the kind of, it's right now, it is based on the sun, it is noon. And somebody will laughingly say, Guruji, the clock is right above your head. The time is 12 noon. So this is what the confusion Maya does. You know, the instruction is very clear. You know what is the instruction? Go downstairs. There is a clock near the steps. Can you see the time in that clock and come and tell me? Everybody, what did they do? They use their mind. Do you know where Maya is now? That is called the confusion. You do not follow the instructions of your guru. And when you don't follow the instruction, what happens is confusion comes about. Maya is constantly there to confuse you. And when you use your mind, the confusion is very, very clear. Because you're using your mind to understand. So it's in the instruction can never be followed. So Maya is always at play. So you can't hear clearly. So what is here? What is happening? Avidya, ignorance. So my Guruji, the first thing that he will ask everybody is that if you are my disciple, that is first based on if he has to accept you. Most important is the Guru has to accept you as a disciple. It is not in your hands to say, I want to learn. It doesn't work like that. So when the Guru accepts you as a disciple, he is going to give you certain instructions. Those instructions have to follow to the T. So here, that is called first is confusion. When you go do everything contrary to what he is instructed. It is a very simple instruction. But you don't have to. He said, it's a very clear, no? What is the instruction? There is a clock downstairs near the stairs. Check the time in that. You think your Guruji is some foolish person. Doesn't he know that there is a clock above, there is a clock in your hand, there is clock everywhere? He's fully aware. But he is testing you out. Next. So confusion is the root of this Maya. Number one. Delusion is its shining flower. This is very, very beautiful. What is the delusion? The delusion says many things. You know what is the delusion? The delusion of your mind. Oh, you know, I am in spiritual. You know, people might think I am doing something wrong. Who's giving you the story? The story is weaved by your mind. And what is that called? Delusion. And if I have to give you a most simple example, when you see the rope, you think it is a snake. That is called delusion. And when the knowledge shines, then you will understand, oh, it's just a rope when the light comes in. Because in the darkness, you can't see. So that avidya, the darkness or the ignorance is called Maya, the delusion. And when it shines, when the knowledge shines, the delusion goes away. So Maya doesn't exist. Very simple. Every Veda, every scripture give this rope and a snake story. Next, what is the delusion in your life? You have too many delusions. You know, this morning, today's satsang was the most beautiful satsang which my Guruji taught in Tripura Rahasyam. You know, what did he say? He said, you know how the delusion comes about? The knowledge doesn't seep in because he gave an example about the lake which has this slime, a green color slime is there. So similarly, your knowledge is covered by the slime of ignorance. And how is that covered? Attachment. My body, first is your body. The next most important thing is my husband, my wife, my child, my house, my family, people, places, things. See, your whole life is only determined by these three factors. And you're constantly stuck in that. There is no way getting out. You know why? Because you're not even making an iota of effort. No matter how many satsang you can sit and listen, nothing enters because the worldly attachment is so strong. Because you believe the world of Maya is real. So Maya will make it very strong for you. That is what happens. And the next thing, what? My job, my boss. Oh, I am, you know, this I am doing it. I am the one who's doing it. Is I have to learn. I have to do. You know, the biggest I, me, myself. Whether it is an inflated ego or a deflated ego, it is still an ego. Aham. the biggest root cause of your, the Maya not going away. No, going to doesn't work, sorry. She even deludes Brahmaji and Lord Shiva. You think you have any standing for which you have to have such a great devotion to the lotus feet of Sri Krishna Bhagwan. Only then can you see through Maya. Most important, please understand, it is not so easy. So the next most important thing is what is called delusion is a shining flower. And the wrong concept is the fruit. What is the wrong concept? I just now said, my house, my wife, my children, my family, my job, money, possession, people, places and things. You're constantly possessing all of this. You believe you're the body, you believe you have to do something, you believe you have to achieve something, you believe you have to, have name, fame, recognition. I'll give you two important stories today, okay, based on this. I think my Guruji has given everybody a homework. You know what is it? He has asked us to watch a very beautiful spiritual knowledge, the stories. There are some on Upanishads. And in that, there's two important stories. One is, it is about Grihastha-ashram. Okay, in Grihastha-ashram, there is the story of a sage, a Mahakavi. He's a great poet. And he has a wife, and the wife has been given a servant by her parents when she got married. Now this Kavi is a very, very great Kavi. He's a very full of goodness of heart. He always cares about everybody's well-being. He's also a Brahmana. So he's been honored in lot of courts, okay? There is a lot of this conferences of the poets, and he's honored and everybody comes to listen to him. Now they gave him lot of gifts, okay? And when they give him lot of gifts, as he's coming back, people, those who, like, he sees some beggars, he sees those who are in need of something, he gives away everything as charity. He doesn't keep anything for himself. So when he's coming home, his, the servant, the person who is serving him, he comes home and he's complaining to his wife saying that, look, your husband has given away everything, whatever we got today, he actually donated everything to the people. We are left with nothing. So as soon as this poet comes, his wife, she says, what is this? You have not left a single thing. When I got married to you, my father, sent 4 servants. Now only one is remaining. All the 3 have gone away because they don't want to live in a beggar's house. Number 2, all my, wealth, everything you have given away in charity. You have donated everything. There is nothing for us. Whatever you get little also you're not keeping. So she was complaining. What was his answer? He said very beautiful, he just said few things. What did he say? He said, look, we have a house. Whatever is required for our subsistence, God has given us. That is all is required. What is there more we have to give to the world? We have to help other people as well. We just cannot be greedy for ourselves. Okay, that's what he says. And then the story goes further like this. There is a Brahmana. Some Brahman comes to his home and he says, I've heard a lot about you. People told me if I go ask you, you will be able to help me. He says, my daughter needs to be married and I need some, clothes and jewelry and little bit money to, do the marriage expense. And that Brahmana sleeps. So her wife is very worried. So she calls this servant of hers and she says, what has he come for? And he goes and finds out and tells her, he's come to ask money. Oh no, you please keep a watch on, your master, because he's now going to take some, debt from somewhere and he's going to give it to this person, that Brahmana. Now this person has been thinking, the poet has been thinking, oh, where should I get the money from? And suddenly he finds the servant is cleaning some old silver vessels, which was given to his wife from her father's place. Okay, they give some gifts. So those precious, whatever the utensils were there. So he calls that servant and tells him, can you just take that and go and give it to this Brahmana? So he's stealing from his own house to do good. And then this servant goes and gives that. And then he says the only thing remaining is I have to give some jewelry. Now he's sleeping next to his wife, and he sees that this wife has a gold bangle in her hand. And you know what he does? While she's fast asleep, he removes out one bangle and hands it over to the servant and says to him, can you please go and give to that Brahmana so that the girl's marriage can take place? So like this, he ensures everything is done, that though he doesn't have a penny also. And the next morning, what happens? The wife wakes up and she finds there is no bangle. And you know what she does? She removes that bangle and she says, take this. You can take this. You know, don't you know that to a daughter, when in your daughter's marriage, you don't give one bangle. You have to give two bangle. And then she gives that bangle and she says, are you not going to take me also to your daughter's, they just make up, they initially will say, we are going for a poets conference instead of saying the marriage. So she was saying, yeah, are you also not going to take me to bless everybody in the poets conference? So that is what is the goodness that one has to sow. This was a story about Grihastha Ashram. What is the moral of the story? The moral of the story is we don't have to get so selfish in lust and greed, in having more and more and more and more. How much more is enough for you? Ask this question. What do you need? You need to only have that which is required for you, for your subsistence or for whatever that needs to be done. Not voraciously gather wealth, voraciously gather stuff. Wealth is to establish dharma. Are you doing any dharma like this? This is the truth about spiritual knowledge. This is what a Grihastha Ashram person should do. Nobody is saying that you have to go hungry. Nobody is saying you have to beg. But you have to also give the world with what God has given to you. That is why in our scriptures it is said, whatever is being given to you, your wealth, 10% has to go towards charity. Or is anybody doing it today? Ask this. And now tell me, how will Maya not trouble you? Because you people don't even follow the path of dharma. Everybody is full of adharma, voracious desires, lust and greed. More, more, more. How much more is enough? Understand, Maya has a very unique way to play. The more you want, the more that money has its own feathers to go and, somewhere it will fly off. It's never going to be with you for the right purpose. The wealth, when you use it for dharma, for establishing dharma, for the good of humankind, then only that purpose will be fulfilled, not otherwise. Otherwise, you're going to be in suffering all along your life. That money has no value. It's a very beautiful story. And most important thing, what he says in the end to the wife? He says, I have not done anything. I've made your life miserable. And I've given away everything. But why are you still with me? What was her answer? To find a gem like you is the greatest thing in this world. Why will I leave you and go? And she says, I will always be with you because you are a gem of a person who cares about everybody in this world. Today, ask yourself, do you even think about another person in your life? You're all about I, me, myself. And Maya will be extremely strong. No knowledge will come. Vidya will never enter there. So now you know why the slime gets covered. No matter how much you hear, no matter how many satsangs you can sit, but if you do not follow what is being taught in your life, no knowledge will enter. Avidya will be there. That is the truth of Maya. Then, so what is it saying? Delusion is its shining flower and wrong concept is fruit. What is the wrong concept? The societal created framework that I have to earn wealth, I have to have a family, I need to make so much money, I need to become the greatest. The greatness is there only to do good in this world, not for your personal gratification. I can give stories after stories after stories. The truth is you need to go listen, you need to learn and understand this adhyatmic truth, the spiritual truth. God will be only with those devotees who are completely serving Him, who are devoted to Him, not to His husband, material worldly things. You have to do whatever you have to. Even being in Grihastha Ashram, you have to have a sense of detachment completely. Not being obsessed with your family, obsessed with your material world enjoyments. Nothing will come. No Lord will be there. See, everybody gets an opportunity. And you don't know when Maya can strike you. The moment the Maya comes, if you don't stand the test of this knowledge, nothing will work in you. It's not you, it's not your guru will throw you away. It is you who will throw Krishna Bhagwan out of your life and go away. It is like very easy like this. That is what the power of Maya is. And that is called the wrong concept. The societal created framework is wrong concept. Religion is a wrong concept. Because religion is not for exploitation. Religion is to doing good in this world. The dharma is to establish the right way of life, the righteousness, the path of righteousness. And this is what you need to live. So my Guruji was saying, so how will the knowledge seep in? So no matter you learn, you go back into your material world, so it covers. This line covers it back. A little opening happens and then it covers back because you're not doing any effort. You're not doing any sadhana. You're not putting an effort to evolve. What have you done to date? The first thing is you don't even have 100% faith in your Gurudev. Oh, I have faith. But people will tell me, but that but itself is failure. Finish, you are gone. It is not 99.99%. It is absolute faith unto the lotus feet of Krishna Bhagwan. We have understood the greatness of his feet. You need to have such a devotion to his feet. It is a great opportunity to be in his presence. Everybody doesn't get it. Yesterday, my Guruji and me were doing a very beautiful lesson in same Eknathi Bhagavad. So in the same scripture. And in that, he's mentioning, how much we have to give up this material world. We just have to do our job, duty, being detached, but being lost in Krishna Bhagwan. In the world, nothing has any value. There is no value in any of these relationships, all the things that you want to possess. Understand, they're all misery to you. The devotion has to be highest to your Gurudev. And your goal has to be that I need to achieve oneness with my divine Lord. I need to get release from this bondage. That fire has to be within you. Till that fire doesn't come, you can't achieve anything. You're just going to be sitting there. And in that, my Guruji was saying a very beautiful thing. You know what he said? Someone had recently come after a long time. And this person acknowledged that, Guruji, without your calling, I can't even enter this place. That is the truth. It is the Krishna Bhagwan, that is your Guru has to call you to enter this place. Otherwise, nobody can come in also. So don't think you have made an effort to come. Sorry, he has brought you here. People have these wrong ideas. You don't know what this place is. I keep telling you, this is not a house. This is Krishna Bhagwan's Golokam on planet Earth. Where he stays, it is his abode. It is Golok Vrindavan on planet Earth. It is not some ordinary place that you just can enter at your will. No, it is only with his will can you enter this place. And he was telling me yesterday, see, I'm not interested in everybody coming because people have to come with devotion. And he said, even if I have 1 or 2 people for my Guru Purnima, I'm fine with that. Because you have to come with the love for the Guru, not for some, I, me, myself, something for the heck of it coming. You are not doing anybody a favor. Understand, you are being brought here with his grace. It's not the other way around. So first understand who you have, what privilege you have. Don't waste this life and don't waste this opportunity. Do you know how many people will want to cut their right hand to be with the Guru? You don't know what it means to be with a Sadguru. It's the greatest of the opportunities. So we have to make it our life goal to ensure that we achieve our ultimate purpose of this human birth. And not waste on thinking about the past, what has happened, somebody said this, somebody didn't say it. We waste our life and lose the time that we have and the opportunity God has given us. Don't waste it with your mind. And that is called the wrong concept. That is called the Maya. And what is wrong concept? All the nonsensical stories which is given to you by your own mind. You imagine things. You talk in your own mind. You dwell on subjects and objects which has no value and relevance. It doesn't give you progress. It only makes you regress. So stop doing this. Value what you have. Because what you have is priceless. You can't put a price tag to it. So what is he saying next? So confusion is the root of this Maya, delusion is its shining flower, and wrong concept is the fruit, which is full of the juice of sense objects. What is the wrong concept? The wrong concept is the fruit, and which is full of the juice from the fruit. What is it? The sense objects. So you getting attached to the sense objects can be anything. Again, it comprises of people, places and things. Everything comprises of these three things. Attachment to all the sense objects. It is nonsense. Understand? It's not worthy at all. In everything you have to see the divine Lord. In everything you have to see Krishna Bhagwan. You have to understand, I am here for a purpose. The purpose is the ultimate thing for me. What is the highest purpose of human birth? To achieving, moksha, achieving God realization or self-realization. Understanding that I am not this body. Understanding the truth of who you are. Empowering the divinity within you. Are you even empowered? No, you're talking everything nonsense in this world. Stop talking nonsense. Stop thinking nonsensical stuff. Tell your mind, shut up and focus. Chant the name of Krishna Bhagwan. What did I say? Just saying Krishna, 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 Krishna itself will give you, redeem you of all the sins. You don't know the power of the word, the name, the word Krishna. It is extremely powerful word. And you have to only take his name. And most important, what is this attachments we are talking about? The attachments, oh, I did not get this, I got this, I am like this, I am not like this. Utter nonsense you people do today. Most important thing, gather knowledge. The right knowledge is very important because you want your future generations to become somebody in the world. We have to make this world a better place, not a worse place for your future generation. Today, Guruji, so many years, he's relentlessly, every single day has been giving satsangs so that people can little bit transform and so that we can help the future generations' life become beautiful. But nobody even wants to be disciplined or nobody wants to bring any change in themselves. If you cannot change yourselves, how can any change happen in your future generation? You will be the cause of the misery of your future generation. So wake up right now and make a difference to yourself and to the world around. The change begins with you. It is not going to begin with somebody. My Guruji said this the day I came to him, Rajma, first you have to empower. The change has to begin with you. Don't tell the world has to change. Be the change you want to see in the world. First you change and set an example for the world to follow. This is something he taught me day one. Change whatever your inadequacies are. Go on the path. Become very good and become the best. You are the divinity, the divine being. The divinity is with you. Krishna Bhagwan lives in your heart. Open the doors for him. Make your heart so pure. Make your mind pure. And surrender unto the lotus feet. The universe will work magic. It is where the purity, where God will exist. Not with all your indiscipline, living like a pig. First, become beautiful. Understand, yes, I am this divinity. I have Krishna Bhagwan with me and I have to make the best of this opportunity has to be your goal. And that is what will take you ahead, not anything else. So we will stop with this because this is a very important verse and we will continue in the next class from sub-verse 43 onwards. So we have stopped chapter 3, Sri Eknathi Bhagwat, verse 3 and sub-verse 42. So thank you for joining Sri Eknathi Bhagwat Satsang. Have a good day and good evening to you all. God bless.